wanted to visit with my broadcast partner in Longhorn football, sports director at KXAN, and of course, be calling the action tonight when on KBVO when it's going to be Hayes and Hendrickson over at the field in Pflugerville. Roger Wallace joins me right now on the hotline. Are you headed over to the field yet?
I apologize. I look like I'm in the witness protection program right now here. I had a light last week and I forgot to turn it on. So
no, we're all good.
Well, I heard the traffic report, and that always is something to look forward to when I head up 35 trying to get to the field. So yeah, I'll be on my way here in a few minutes.
Okay, all right. This matchup, it's interesting. They've both played competitive non-district schedules at this point. Hendrickson's 1-1, Hayes is 2-0, and they had that crazy come-from-behind win against Pflugerville last week. So it's back-to-back trips for them to the field off of that. But what's your take on this Hayes team early on that's out to a 2-0 start this season?
Yeah, it was interesting talking with their coach Mark Torres, because he kind of set the scene a little bit different than maybe we thought. He said, we struggled against Pflugerville. We had the big comeback, got some breaks along the way, whereas Hendrickson cruised in their shutout win over Leander. So he said they should probably be feeling pretty good. And I'm not sure how our guys are feeling. I kind of look at it the other way. Hey, you guys found a way to win in a competitive ball game, a close game, fourth quarter game, whereas Hendrickson comes into this one. It wasn't terribly competitive. So, Hayes might be a little more battle tested coming off of week 2, but everything changes now with this being the district opener as well tonight.
Yeah, and it was a tough loss for Hendrickson in week 1 to Belton. So, I mean, like we said, competitive ball games and that sort of thing. All right, so here was the hook to all of this. We talked about it with Babe Laufenberg about him losing his son Luke and to cancer back in 2019. And it started with Dana Dimmel, the head coach, saying, we're not going to retire Luke Laufenberg's jersey number. No, we're going to have somebody wear the jersey, kind of almost like that 12th man type thing where somebody wears the 12th man jersey, but somebody will wear the number 2 jersey in his honor. And the thing that just absolutely makes it stand alone from others is whoever wears the jersey wears it with the name Laufenberg on the back of the jersey, which is absolutely just thunderstruck me when I read about this. And then it come to find out, of course, the kid who's wearing it is a redshirt freshman from El Paso, out of Pebble Hills, Marcus Torres, whose dad happened to be his head coach in high school at Pebble Hills, and now is entering his second year as head coach of the Hayes Hawks, Mark Torres. And I imagine he's a pretty proud dad about all that.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool connection. And honestly, you and I were talking yesterday. I didn't put it together until I was working on my Texas UTEP stuff for our game on Saturday. I spoke with Mark in the morning on Tuesday, and he didn't offer it up. And then I saw Marcus Torres, Pebble Hills. Okay, that's not a coincidence. But yeah, that is so cool, and how cool it is for Mark in year 2 as the head coach at Hayes to have his son come up here and play. And since they play on Thursday, Saturday is usually a little bit more open for high school coaches than it would be on a Friday. So very cool that he'll no doubt get to see his son play at Royal Texas Memorial Stadium on Saturday.
Well, and as you saw, Roger, he's not just listed as a roster dude who was handed a scholarship. He is on the depth chart, on the 2 deep as a slot receiver. And Babe was telling me that last Saturday night in their win over UT Martin, Malachi Nelson tried to throw him a pass later in the game, and he said he just missed him on the target. And Nelson apologized to Torres and said, hey, I'm sorry I couldn't get you your first collegiate catch. And Torres' response was to say, hey, maybe I'll get one in Austin next week. So
yeah, that would be really cool. Babe was my quarterback at IU back in the day for one season.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got the Lee Corso connection. I got the Babe Laufenberg connection.
Well, here's the other connection. I asked him if I said, this is not intended to make you feel more aged, but I said, did your career overlap? Because he was talking about Arch. And he said, I'm really looking forward to watching Arch play. And I said, not to make you feel any older, but did your career in any way overlap with Arch's grandfather? And the answer is yes, by like about a year. About a year. Arch in the twilight of his career, and Babe just starting out in his career. So there was a little bit of overlap there. Let's talk about this game on Saturday as well, and what we heard Sark say today, and what he said when we were recording Longhorn Weekly. A lot of the same themes echoing as going into last week, in that he wants to play a lot of guys, and he wants to see it this different than week one. He really wants to see a lot of cleanup in the penalty area with the 12 infractions for over 100 yards.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. And your guy, Hardball Harge, we'll call him Leather Harge for this question with Sark today, but he talked about, keeping things clean and what do you like from the sides of the ball so far in week 3 now. And he was interesting because he didn't sugarcoat. Offense needs to clean things up. They need to be more consistent. They like the big plays. Obviously, the defense is elite. He said kind of incomplete on special teams because they haven't had that many opportunities. The other thing he said is he didn't back down from, hey, human nature is you guys are 40-point favorites. How do you keep them engaged in practice? And he talked about, the scout team and how good of a job they did giving this team good looks. And so he doesn't dodge that stuff that everyone's thinking. You're in this middle of a 3-game homestand where you're going to be seemingly a heavier favorite than next week from the previous week, and that'll probably include next week. But I think they can still get a lot out of it as well. And I spoke to him for our pregame show on Saturday on game day about Arch. And, Arch did this last year. He did 2 as the starter, never did 3 as the starter. So this is his 3rd game starting, and he just likes the fact that he's getting a better command of the offense, and more importantly, maybe the leadership aspect and making sure he includes everybody in getting this offense on track as well.
Kind of curious to see what he does with the running backs. I think we're all obviously expecting to see a pretty good dose of C.J. Baxter as it's getting up, and then obviously he wants to continue to mix in other guys, and that would be obviously Christian Clark. He's been very upfront with what he said about Jarrett Gibson, and I know everybody remembers the fumbles last year and then the fumble last week. And then the other thing, and this is something he said to me last night as well, and he said it this morning on the Zoom, I think we're going to get to see that freshman from Shreveport, James Simon, on the field on Saturday.
Yeah, and the Gibson thing's interesting because he feels terrible for him, but that doesn't change the way he feels about if you put it on the ground, that's going to hurt your chances of being in the rotation. Now, I think he'll get a chance on Saturday, but yeah, to see one of the freshmen, Stewart's a little bit banged up. He didn't dress last week in their game against San Jose State, but Simon's a guy that's been getting a lot of reps in practice, and I'm interested to see what Christian Clark does game 2. Game 1, you finally get out there, you get a chance. He busted off a 13-yard run. Now do we see him a little bit more free and easy on Saturday as well? And to me, Craig, also the other thing, the tight ends. I mean, they're just running tight ends out there deep into the depth chart, and they all look pretty good.
Yeah, I was about to get to that and say it's another thing that's really fascinating. We all heard and knew about Jack Hendricks coming in, and he's lived up to the billing so far with what he's done with the 6 catches and 2 touchdowns. But to see Spencer Shannon, Jordan Washington, Nick Townsend, all rotating. I mean, we were keeping the spotter Andy Way hopping last Saturday every time, motioning tight ends in, out, in, out, in, out. And that can be nothing but good if you're developing that depth with guys who obviously they have different ones out there in different blocking situations, but they've all proven they can catch the ball as well.
And that's the part. We see them catch it. We go, oh, there's another tight end involved. But sometimes we don't watch as closely what they're doing in the run game, like Jeff Banks is doing, Kyle Flood's doing, and Coach Sark's doing. So, yeah, that separates. Amari Watson caught a ball, and I thought one of Arch's better plays when he got out of the pocket and he had to move around a little bit and dumped it down to him on the sideline. So, yeah, a lot of different guys are seeing time at tight end. And I think we're going to see more receivers this week. DeAndre Moore sounds like he's not going to go, still waiting on Emmett Mosley. So Dalen McCutcheon's going to get more chances. Khalil Lockett, who made the catch on Saturday. And is this a time where we see a Jamie French maybe make his debut as well at receiver?
And an Aaron Butler, whom
right. And he did play some last week.
Yeah, and even Ryan Niblett perhaps in the patterns as well, those guys. And all of that gets to the next thing I was going to ask, and this was special teams. This kind of slowly emerged, I think, coming out of camp, and now folks seem to be pretty fascinated with it, is that all three of those guys in the kicking game, the place kicker Mason Shipley, the punter and holder Jack Bomeister, and the snapper Lance St. Louis, they're all married guys, and they're all looked at as being old guys. In college football parlance, I guess they are. Bomeister's 26, so all of that. But that's another interesting theme of this football team.
Yeah, Will Stone, of course, we know him from his days at Regents here in Austin. So he's the young of the old guys.
He's the puppy of the group.
Yeah. Exactly. But Bomeister had his moment in game one. Wasn't asked to do as much last week. Then obviously Shipley, it was good to see him bang that 47-yarder in, and then Stone continues to kick unreturnable kickoff. So right now it's a pretty good formula.
Visiting with Roger Wallace here for a few more minutes here on 1300. And Roger, let me ask you with regard to defense. We mentioned Grayson Littleton was probably the name that leaped off the page after the first game. I see that. And then in addition to that, I think the two guys who have stood out, and Sark mentioned one of them yesterday, would be Murad Watson and Cole Brevard in the middle of that defensive front. And Hero Kanu has also hopped in there. And we've seen Travis Shaw get in there, Lance Jackson off the end, Zena Mosalou off the end. We're seeing a pretty regular rotation of guys, even with Alex January still out.
Yeah, and Watson is a guy that, they got him for a while if they can hold on to him. He was just 1 year at Syracuse. So I think they like the fact that they can develop him as well. But that was obviously the question with all the new interior defensive linemen. I think one time, Craig, at least one or two snaps, they had four basically edges on their front four last week. And I think that's the other part of this defense. They're so flexible. And in this day and age of the way you play defense, you can put those edge guys. Ethan Burke can move inside, and some of the other guys can move inside. Trey Moore can drop down to a defensive end. So a lot of different looks. The guy that jumped out at me also was Anthony Smith, because of exactly what you ran that soundbite with Sark about, and that was the forced fumble he made. He made the tackle. There was no chance that ball carrier was going to get away, and then he ripped the ball out with some help from Michael Taff. And so to Anthony Smith, I think a lot of people think he's going to have a breakout year, as well as Jelani McDonald, who got the hand on the ball that Jalen Gilbo was able to get the interception. I think Colin Simmons is going to be fine, but I think everyone wants to see him make some more plays and make fewer mistakes.
Yeah. I think you're right about that. And some of that goes to the expectation of him. I also found it interesting, and this is uplifting for folks, to see Leonga Lefau all over the field against Ohio State and everything he did. And then the linebacker everybody was talking about coming out of the game was the guy you just mentioned, Anthony Smith. And then through it all, there's Anthony Hill in there still getting his hand in, still punching out a ball, still being a factor with two forced fumbles early on, even though we've been talking about Lefau and Smith here these 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, this defense, they made Ohio State. It was difficult for Ohio State to move the ball. Obviously, it was difficult for San Jose State. They had one drive, but the defense I think is going to be really good. And they'll get tested again a little bit different way with Malachi Nelson on Saturday. But, I mean, we're rattling off a lot of names that have already made plays, and we know are going to make a lot more plays. We haven't even mentioned Malik Muhammad. I think he's been off to a really fast start as well at one quarterback. I thought Gilbo would have a big year, and I still think that. He got the pick on Saturday as well, but he can come down and he can be a factor in the run game as well.
Yeah. Before I let you go, I want to give you a chance to tell folks, because you guys are staying so busy. We talked a little bit about it last week. You have the game tonight on KBVO. Now, tomorrow night, if you correct me if I go off the rails here, that huge Westlake at Atascocita game, folks can watch that streaming on KXAN Plus, correct?
Yeah, and KXAN.com. You can watch it on Plus. You can watch it online. Plus is the free app. And then also, as I mentioned last week, we'll archive our Thursday game on KBVO tonight, and then that'll be available on Plus as well. So that's a nice way to give people another option of watching. So,
and then and then the pregame show on Saturday. I mean, that's been extremely busy. And I would imagine on the home games there along Bevo Boulevard, the guys with the game day show are even busier than normal.
Yeah, that's. I thought it went really well last week. Our Noah Gross part of that one. Now, Noah's a little irked at Jeremy Hills last week because the celebrity chef brought food to the set a la game day, except Hills just grabbed the plate and he just started going at it. And if anybody knows Noah, he's a connoisseur of food. I think he was ready to throw down with Jeremy.
You know, my broadcast partner on Longhorn men's basketball, Eddie Orrin, refers to Cameron Parker, who's our engineer, road producer, as on the all knife and fork team. And I would say that Noah and Levon Whitaker are on the all knife and fork media team. Would that be accurate?
They know what food is served where at events. Let's just leave it at that.
Okay. Love those guys. Hey, safe travels up there to Pflugerville. Have a good call. We'll be watching tonight.
All right. We'll see you Saturday. Thanks, Craig.
You bet. All right. That's Roger Wallace.